Now that's significant. The Market Research Podcast.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on this latest episode of Now That's Significant, a market research podcast. This is your host today, Horst Feldhaeuser, Group Services Director at Infotools. Today we're joined by Anthony Ahiabuike. Up until September last year, the Director, Strategy and Planning, Consumer and Market Research Insights at Reynolds. Now retired after 32 years working client-side in the market research and insights industry. Anthony is also an accomplished guitarist and music lover, something we have in common. Well, the love for music, that is, not the guitar skills. Thanks for joining us on the show, Anthony.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so humbled and delighted to be here.
Super. So, Anthony, what's the most significant thing you're going to tell us today?
Well, the most significant thing that I've discovered as of today is that life is beautiful. And because life is such a collaborative process, and the importance of the decisions that we make and the actions that we take are so important. So we are like, all of us are like a river connected to each other. So let's keep creating fertile grounds of hope, kindness, and always lead with love.
I like that. And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's all of our responsibility, right? We choose to collaborate. We choose hope and kindness and love over anything else. We can choose and work together. I really like that. That's fantastic.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
What a great start. So after such an illustrious career that you had, what would you say were the highlights or biggest changes that you've experienced? Those that changed what you've been doing the most and had the highest and biggest impact to you and your work?
I would say speed, and speed. Everything is moving at such a fast pace. You know, there's the speed of technology in terms of just advancement. And of course, there's the speed of human interaction. So talking to people all over the world, we don't have to send things in the mail anymore. And there's this volume of noise. And then there's the challenges of separating quality information from the cobwebs of all this noise around us. So that's been extremely significant in terms of my perception at this point.
Finding the important stuff out of the noise. You're absolutely right. And what are the biggest learnings that you can share or pass on to anyone currently working in or wanting to join market research and insights?
Market research is very exciting. You know, I don't have to sell it. Those that are market research working in the space already know that. So for me, it's really kind of to pronounce it this way. That market research and insights is evolving and is rich and rewarding field to be in. It is really important for us to all understand ourselves as consumers, you know, to make sense of others as consumers. We should not treat consumers like they're from Mars. And then more importantly, when we're involved in market research and insights, we should not be agenda-driven, you know, which quite frankly, I call it agenda-driven bias. You know, we should always ask, are we looking for answers from consumers to justify an agenda? Or are we aspiring to understand the desires, the needs, and the wants of consumers? If we can level set ourselves, you know, from that perspective, by understanding ourselves, then it becomes really important in terms of undertaking the understanding of consumers and providing insights.
That's a really good one. And I think, you know, what you're saying, don't treat consumers like they're from Mars, is absolutely right. I mean, and also I think what I've learned over the years is don't take for granted that the consumers are exactly like us, right? Or like you in the industry or like in the agency industry. And then they're often not, right? And we need to understand those differences and find those answers.
Absolutely. All the products that we're passionate about, so are the consumers, you know, that we study in most of our research.
Excellent. I love it. So in one of our meetings when last year, you talked about the need for your external partners to embrace your business and industry. Can you a little bit elaborate on what you mean by that? And, you know, given that you've been working in a sensitive industry for many years, so what do you feel about that? And what do you mean by that?
Wow, great memory, Horst, for you to remember that. But you've always been a very active listener anyway. I believe it's really more about, curiosity and showing interest and becoming engaged and less of embracing the industry itself. Just imagine if you are interviewing an applicant who does not look interested in the job, right? It's so easy to kind of spot that. A partner must show interest in the business of the industry of their client in order to be successful. Additionally, a partner must select a team that are genuinely interested in learning and also supporting the client's business. I'm not entirely against the transactional relationship that occurs sometimes, but it shouldn't be too loud or outright obvious. Bottom line, if an organization is not comfortable with the business of a potential client or a client, the wise decision is don't partner with them. Quite frankly, that's what RFP helps to accomplish. But once you're there, stay engaged, learn, almost becoming part of a team itself. So that interest and curiosity to me is really important.
Yeah, and I think that curiosity, you mentioned it a couple of times, is really something that drives a lot of us in the industry. And when you said before, you don't have to sell market research to those of us who are in it, because we got in it either by chance or by accident or on purpose. But yeah, it's that curiosity and this, what's going out there, understanding people and why they do stuff. And yeah, this constant learning, I think, is really important.
Absolutely.
What other tips can you give us to work successfully with client teams and also your internal stakeholders?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most important things, especially you and I had an outstanding relationship, a great working relationship, and I consider you a friend. In my experience, one of the key things that I always observe is that the sales team and the client's service team that actually end up doing the work, sometimes they're not aligned, right? So what the sales teams obviously does is to sell and overpromise, which ends up creating avoidable disruptions down the road. The sales team moves to the next gig just to capture what's next. Just type of this Pontius Pilate type of stuff. I'm done, sell and run, right? And then additionally, it is important to understand that in some of these organizations, a lot of organizations, quite frankly, the research team are perceived as cost centers, and the value of delivery is often questioned. So it's important to help them to help retain the contract. It's also important to have a point of difference in the deliverables, and also to evolve over time. Complacency is not a good thing, right? Find ways to have a voice on the table, no matter how small it is. This ties back to showing interest that I was talking about earlier, and also assisting in the delivery of meaningful and actionable insights. Ties back again to collaboration. That's when there's a collaborative effort all through the entire process. It makes it much more meaningful, enjoyable, and also delivers value.
100%. And it's interesting you mentioned the idea of helping the research teams, and I think that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing, right? Our job as if I'm on my side as a software provider or services provider is to make your job easier or your colleagues' job easier and making you famous. And one of the things you just mentioned as well is kind of triggered a discussion that we had actually a couple of weeks ago on a podcast where we talked about research effectiveness awards and research effectiveness. And having worked on a lot of those submissions in the past, I always find, discussing the effectiveness of market research with my client stakeholders, that bonds us, and it clarifies, hey, we actually have achieved something really valuable and effective here. And I think that's exactly where you say, showing that interest and helping the delivery. And I think, if we can do more of that, and maybe not every project will be like this, but I worked in a company where we're almost in one of the research agencies here in New Zealand, the early days, well, almost every project we looked at, okay, so what have we achieved, and are we achieving, some effective research, and how can we work more on that? And I think that's really what you mean by that, I think.
Yeah, and even if you just ask the clients the questions about what's really important to you the next few months, what are the expectations for you, and what can we do to help?
Yeah,
That just by itself, is quite helpful.
That's fantastic. Now, on the client side, what would you say, can a client-side market research make an even bigger impact within their organization? What can they do?
It is really more, for me, a lot in terms of just really having a cohesive plan, and quite frankly, being able to communicate that. At the end of the day, the responsibility is to deliver value consistently and continue to evolve in the delivery of those, meaningful insights. Being proactive, make time to be proactive, because we always say be proactive, but you really have to make time in terms of being proactive, and, hire the right vendor, supplier partners, hire the right people in the team, collaborate with the partners, vendors, supplier partners, by giving them a voice on the table. If it's not the overall big table, at least give them a voice on your table, right? Because they've got perspective, they've got insights, and give them the autonomy to question things as well. Just don't say it, but act on it, whether or not you like what you're hearing. In my experience, always, there are times that, due to the volume of questions coming from key stakeholders, they are much more focused on asking specific things that are agenda driven. I turn that around sometimes and say, often I end up providing what they ask for, and additionally giving them what they really need, and I'm speaking about insights, and that allows me to always have a voice on the table.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and you're right, because we're often bogged down with day to day, and we just journeying around stuff that we want and we ask for, and then what you say, yeah, but also what does it mean, and what else can I give you that helps you and what you need. This is really, yeah, fantastic. Now, you mentioned before the speed of technology already in the intro. What role has technology played over the years for you, and where do you see it coming in the next 5 to 10 years, say, for example?
Wow, that's really a very exciting question. It could be anywhere, anytime, right? So we know in terms of just agility, and we've talked about speed, in terms of technology. Technology is here to stay, and is always going to have tremendous impacts on all things in our planet, and then much more specifically for market research, it presents an opportunity and disruption. And, it's allowing brands to gain deeper understanding of their respective customers. Most organizations are diving through different things and trying to kind of feel through it, and quite frankly need guidance in terms of what type of service module, they need to quickly address their business needs in real time. Disruption on the other end is something that I think a lot of focus really need to be on. And we have talked before about the volume of data and the speed of data that is flying in. So how do we peel the quality, from all the clutter that is traveling at a lighter speed? Is it AI? Is it generative AI? Is this the data fabric? Is this decision intelligence? Or is it a hybrid of some of these things? Or is this some of these things for specific things? And because there's no one size fits all. So it's really a question of understanding the needs, and then being able to apply the right resource or tool, leveraging technology, to be able to assist in the understanding of the things that we're looking for.
Yeah, I just listened to an interview, I think it was yesterday, from someone, I think might have been Zappi, where they talked about, all the work that AI and generative AI and ChatGPT will taking away from us, which is, some of the mundane work almost, or the starting work, like designing a questionnaire or starting some of the reporting. But on the other hand, it's all about interpretation and translation of what all this stuff means. And I think it was mentioned somewhere else in one of the conferences that probably, part of the future for us as people in this industry is becoming, the interpreters, the translators. As you said before, there's so much noise, and yes, technology helps us to get through this noise, but we still then need to make sense of it, right? So, which in my opinion is fantastic, because again, it feeds that curiosity, right? It gives us hopefully the ability to do more of the stuff that really matters and is fun, and then less of the stuff that can be automated, like report writing, right? No one wants to do report writing, really.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I think, with always, through the age of time, advancement of technology, the quicker you embrace it, the better you find your path and your value.
Yeah.
You can't outrun, technology. You can't outrun AI. It is here, So we need to be able to embrace it, to be able to identify the value that we still deliver as humans, and look at it, to kind of subsidize or lead the way in some things. And that's okay.
Yeah, fantastic. So now that you step back and you're retired, do you miss our industry, our battering, what's going on in the world of market research and insights? Do you still follow it somehow?
I do to some degree. I just miss the collective intelligence, the debates. How do we get from spot 1 to 2? All those essential dialogues, because market research is really about dialogue. It's not about monologue, So I miss that. And I miss my work family environment, all the collaboration and friendship. I do stay in touch with, the folks that makes life beautiful for me. I get to sort of choose that, And I've always enjoyed, working with you, Horst, and I follow your adventures and all your successes on LinkedIn. You're a great world citizen, and I intend to stay close. And so is Aubrey and the team that I work with. So, the friendships that I've built over the years becomes really a lot more meaningful, for me to nourish, and that's really important.
Yeah, you're too kind, Anthony. I sent that world's best world citizen right back to you, beautiful world citizen. And you're right. I mean, we spend so much time at work, right? And we create so many good friendships and relationships. And I think if COVID taught us one thing over the last 3 years is yes, you can do a whole lot of stuff online or via phone calls like we do have now, but nothing beats face to face. And if last year the big conferences have started up again, and people were flocking to it because there's a great friendship and a collaboration in this industry. And I think one of the things I noticed, and I think it's globally, but in particular also in New Zealand, which is a slightly smaller market. A lot of people in the industry, while to some extent we're competitors, we're also good friends and support each other and help each other and help the industry to grow, right? Which is what we want.
Exactly. So it's really a team, regardless of the competition. You can compete, in a healthy way. It doesn't take away the substance of who you are or what you're able to deliver or what you're able to accomplish. Fantastic. But friendship is a lifetime deal.
100%. Yeah. So how do you fill your time these days? Hopefully playing or listening to lots of music. Anything else exciting?
It's really interesting how I just sort of kind of take my time to determine that. But for me, it's really more, family. As long as I'm not disrupting anybody's flow, we do have a man's best friend. We do have, a dog that both of us, we spent, a lot of time with. I stay fit. That's the most primary thing, even that my daughter cautioned me about retirement. So, I do get about 5 miles, 5 days a week. And I stay away from television, like, I was telling you earlier, we just stay away from the news. And I went back to just sort of rereading the classics, Dickens and all that, listening to tons of music. I watch, quite a lot of Criterion Collection movies, and I write. Interestingly, I've not played the guitar that much, but I'm learning more about music fundamentals from people like Ron Carter, Herbie Hancock, and the great late Wayne Shorter on all these master classes and all kinds of stuff. So I dive into a whole lot of things just to kind of keep the mind sharp and learn. There's just abundance of things to kind of learn, buying myself some time to really determine, okay, what's necessarily the next step. But I'm enjoying things, and I'm just enjoying life. I'm humbled and just thankful.
Fantastic. It's great to hear, and really absolutely appreciate you making the time as well. So just to quickly recap what we talked about today. So we talked about the speed of technology advancement, and for market research, this presents an opportunity to gain deeper understanding of consumers, and we should really embrace those opportunities. The speed of human interactions and how this is relevant when communicating to consumers, but also when we interact with internal and external stakeholders. We talked a little bit about the importance of being curious. Well, actually a lot about the importance of being curious in our field, showing interest and be fully engaged in what we do. And whether it's an external partner, an internal stakeholder, or whether it's in communications with our peers. How this helps client teams to deliver better, more meaningful and actionable insights. And that we as insights professionals need to be aware that sometimes our information end users are focused on specific outputs only. So they're really focused on what they need in the moment, but we might be able to help them to see the bigger picture and add additional value insights to that. But most importantly, and I think that was your opening statement, was really that we talked about how life is a collaboration of people, and that we can choose to lead with kindness, love, and inclusion. And that's our responsibility, each and every person's responsibility to, live our life, to collaborate with people and to choose the kindness, love, and inclusion. I think that covers it, right, Anthony?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, fantastic. Well, once again, a big thanks for joining us on today's episode, Anthony. It has been an absolute pleasure connecting with you again for our chat, and I'm sure we're gonna stay in touch, and I'll follow what I can see from you. And for those listening, if you'd like what you heard today, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and feel free to share it with others who might also find it helpful. Thanks for listening to Now That's Significant.